yes, Bill making stuff. Now, you know what we have in common, Wellington?
It's not talent.
Oh, well, poo-poo on you anyway. But, okay, well, anyway, well, actually, our hands, actually. See, we both have the working hands. There are no other YouTubers out there with working hands. So, like, you know, we don't use Palmolive, I guess. But, so, you know, so, hey, I'm with you right there, brother, with the working hands. But, okay, so Bill making stuff recently, he made a game called Bangarang. Yes? Oh, yes, Bangarang in the Gutterlands. Okay, with Apocrypha Now. They got together, they made a game where it's sort of like, you know, Mad Max, but with robots. But you create the robots. So I was all excited, I looked at it, I ordered a copy online, but in the meantime, I looked it up, and Wellington showed them right here. Here we have the chart right here that you roll to make what creature you want to make out of it. And the faction that I picked at the time was the fleshy ones. I want the meaty ones. I was going to do a meaty one. So later on in this video, when I show you the rolls, it was for a meaty one. I mentioned that. But something came up and I used something else. But we'll get into that later anyway. So, what the hell? Well, let's get into it now. So basically, I did the rolls and I looked at it and I'm like, you know, instead of making a little figure, a meaty one, I started a project during the 2023 haunt season. I was working with the legendary Junkyard Johnny in the Junkyard. He's amazing. Here's a picture. Wellington, show him the picture of Junkyard Johnny, killing machine supreme, yes. So I figured it was me and him, and we worked great together. What we would do is kind of like good cop, bad cop, but it's more like annoying cop, killing machine cop, because the people, you know, the customers would come in, I would annoy the living hell out of them, and then Junkyard Johnny would chop them up and just their guts would be everywhere, and there was a huge pile of customers, which, you know, you think it wouldn't be good, but, you know, at least they couldn't get refunds, so it did work out in the long run. So it is huge pile, so I was like, I need to build a robot to, like, you know, do a little bit of cleanup and, you know, kill the ones that were still crawling away. So I was going to make this junk machine robot, and okay, I started it, and unfortunately, before the season was over, I only had it 60% complete, so it got shelved, it got put in the back. Then, you know, I looked at my rolls, and I'm like, the rolls are very close to this. If I just changed, like, the mouth area, and one hand was on the old one was a pipe wrench with a long, big tentacle on it. Okay, I got rid of that, and I used the ones on the dice rolls, which was a claw and a skinny arm, and I'm like, you know, this works out pretty good. I'm going to use this on here. So, and then I'm going to change it a little bit, okay, for the story behind it, because now it's no longer in the modern times now. So in the future, in the Gutterlands here, we have, this will be Junkyard Johnny 3000. Yes, I'm naming it after Junkyard Johnny. He was just great. Now, Junkyard Johnny has much bigger arms than this guy, but, you know, he's named after him because he's named after the 21st century killing machine Junkyard Johnny. So but he's Junkyard Johnny 3000. Junkyard Johnny 3000 in the future. So, okay, and let's get going on here now. In the video too, when we get to the end of it, I wasn't, of course, because I started it, you know, originally I started the original robot. I didn't film all of it, but I went back and I'm going to show a few tricks I did into making it. One is to use McDonald's trays to make very wonky, orky type bolts. And the other, I'm going to show basically how the neck mechanism works. So, okay, here we go, off to the Gogar Hole, off to the Gogar Hole. And here we go, 6. Okay, let's see what 6 is. 6 is Rust God. Oh, that's a very good one, Rust God. Even though he's going to be meaty, it sounds like I can put some rust in him too. Okay, we have an 8 right here. 8 looks like, what do we have for the mandibles? Mandibles. Oh, I guess like insect mandibles. Yes. Okay, we have a 15 right here. 15 is long and thin. Okay, we have a 2 right here. And 2 is claws. Okay, claws. Number 8. Okay, and 8 is who needs legs? No legs on this one. Number 1. We have Rusty. Okay, so more rust. Lots of rust on this guy. For a big meaty guy, he's got a lot of rust on him. Ah, yes, the Gutterlands. The Gutterlands will be mine! I shall rule them! And when I am done with them, you'll be next! The flesh eats! The flesh is weak! But metal is eternal! Metal is eternal! Bangarang! 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 Ah! So here's a trick you've probably never seen before. It's to you making rivets out of a McDonald's tray. Yes, this is the McDonald's big breakfast tray right here. But if you turn it over, it has these vacuum formed, really cool looking little, that can be used for rivets right there. Now the trick to this one is, now also, yes, you have to clean this. Clean this very good. If you pour maple syrup all over it, it's shot. So do not pour maple syrup on it. When you clean it, I've cleaned it several times. As a matter of fact, I even went over it with simple green. You've got to get all the grease out of there because that's very important to attach it. So here we go. We're going to turn it around. And we're going to cut it into strips. You might have to sacrifice one end if it's a little too tight. So we'll start with like a little piece about that big right there. Okay, now it'll be a total pain in the butt trying to cut a perfect circle around these, but we're going to use it for the bot right here, and I'm also going to use it for orky things. So in doing such a thing, you could leave a little bit of the flange on the end of it and make it look like a washer. Especially like an orc washer would be shaped something like, like a pentagon or such. So you can cut several of these, and we'll use one as an example. Which is big meaty fingers here, really, really fun to work with. I'm going to cut it to a square around it first. Cut the other piece off, and okay, see it has that little flange. I'm also going to cut the corners off, making it look like it's a really bad washer or something like that, or some sort of like wonky setting for it. And like I said, trying to cut a perfect circle on this, you'll probably give yourself a nervous breakdown. So that's what we'll be working with right here. Okay, so we made a pile of them right over here. Nice little pile. Now the next trick is going to be, yes, the 2-part AV's epoxy sculpt is what we're going to use to attach it. That's the 1 and 2 parts. Now, when you do this, actually use a little bit more of part A. You can get away with that. It's more sticky. That's very important. And then you have the part B here in a smaller area. So we're going to mix that up. Now we're going to use an upcoming project here as an example. Now this is going to be for a Warhammer 40k orc, like gigantic, gargant looking, big, mean sucker, stomper looking dude. So it's going to be one of the arms right here. And as you can see, this is an American standard toilet flush valve. Yes, right here. And this is a Fisher-Price toy right here. I think it was for the super nifty kind fireman something or other, but it's going to be used as a weapon of mass destruction now for the orcs. So, we're going to use this, okay, for an example for the rivets. So, let's go back. Let's go back to the Ronald McDonald pieces right here. Now, you know what we're going to do next, Wellington?
I don't know. What is that?
Do you know what? Do you know? Do you know what the next step is?
No, what is that?
No, you know what the step? You know what it is?
Oh, will you just bloody tell us?
Oh, okay, fine. Oh, God, just calm down.
You're going to make this video 12 hours
long. We'll get a few hours that way. Okay, so you have to do is you put this, you get the piece of the Aves epoxy scoped, and you fit it in there. And the neat thing about these little babies here right now is they're all different sizes, so it gives it a nice wonky look to it. And we'll start like right up here, and that'll stick it into place for now. If you get too much, you could either leave it there if you think it looks like a nice weld, or you could clean it up. Just clean it up a little bit right there. Actually, it'd be better to do that with a little blade or something, but okay, so there's one right there. Let's do one more. I've got one ready right here. Gonna stick that right on. Now, this right here, what works out really good for this is you're like, well, why don't you just crazy glue them right now on? Well, this way here, you don't, when you crazy glue it, you get it on your fingers. You can move it now. You have plenty of time to move it if you wanted to move it over a little bit, get it right where you wanted it. And the big secret to actually setting it is going to be this way. You have to use the thin glue here, this glue right here. The thin crazy glue, as we called it back in the 70s. And see, look, I want to even it out more, so that's holding it on there. Okay, a little cleanup. Now, it's very important. The clay itself, once it dries, it won't hold it that well. This will make it permanent. So, you just, you could put a little drop, a little heavy drop right there. But that'll hold it in there permanently right there. And you keep going with it. Now here's the part where I do this was the neck mechanism that I did for it. Now, this might be a little bit impractical because many of the parts I got here either came from a plumbing supply store or an irrigation supply store. You won't find these at Home Depot. But let's go over it anyway, just in case you happen to be in the trades. But first I got a piece of PVC, 1-inch PVC. There's a difference between this 1-inch PVC and the stuff you regularly get. This comes from, you would have to get this at an irrigation supply, and it's the thin wall PVC. The reason I do that is for the installation. I'll show you in a moment. But at first I had to cut it in half. So after cutting the initial piece here, about I guess around like 8 inches, I put it in a vise, and I took my hacksaw. Now you don't want to do this. You're going to cut your fingers off if you try to do that. So while it was in the vise, I worked one side and then the other side. And as I was doing that, the vise was making a clamp on itself, so you can't cut all the way down. So I scribed it the best I could. Then I took a sheetrock knife, and I just took my time, and I just worked it and worked it all along the seam until it finally came apart like that. Now, as you can see, it's very flexible. Regular PVC, the thick wall is not going to be that flexible. Because for the next part, okay, I'm going to use this as an example right here. This is a picker-upper. This one has been Ron'd. I work with a guy named Ron in maintenance, and this is what happens to a picker-upper when he has one for over like 15 minutes. He drops it under a vehicle, like, I need another one. I need another picker-upper. And can I borrow one? And do not let him borrow one. The next one will look like this in 2 minutes. So anyway, well, we're going to use this one for the example here for the Ron. So this jaw was used for the mandibles in the old one, but a much better one. So okay, so the trick is, we're going to snap this over here. Notice I also cut these little tabs out here, because you get these sharp little tabs, they might pinch you. You don't want those tabs, they'll be real sharp. So here you go, right here, and okay, get it started right there, and then just slowly work. Now, okay, that's going to snap. That's going to snap and get your fingers, so you have to be very careful. Get in the clear, and boom. Okay, there you go. I was going to secure it more, but I tell you what, this did the trick for me. That's all I needed to do for it. The next is a split ring hanger. You get these at the plumbing supply store. And okay, now this is kind of a little bit loose. This one here is a 1-inch IPS size, so that's 1-inch iron pipe size. It's a little bit loose, so for the creature that I made, I put a little bit of electrician's tape or carpet tape on there, built it up, and then I saw what would hold it the tightest. Okay, now the next step, I was going to get that started in there, so you get an idea. Now the next step I also did, this is something else too, you have to have the ability to weld. Actually, the seam should be off to the side. That'll give it the least amount of resistance to it. And like I said, normally that'll have a piece of carpet tape in there to keep it, hold it as good as possible. And that goes into like a 3/8 bolt. And this is the part, well, you'd have to weld to do this, but I took a wheel caster to get the end off here. Discard the wheel, whee! And I welded the bolt onto this piece right here, so that would give you this mounted inside the robot unit itself. This one here controlled the back and forth motion. This, oh yes, you have a lock nut there, so that stays straight, so that doesn't wobble. So that'll be straight. This would be welded in the end, and you would have that motion. Da 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 da. Come on, Wellington, sing along. Da 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 da. Oh, is that? That might be copyrighted music. Cover your ears. Cover your ears. Don't listen to that. Okay, and as far as now, this will be mounted into the robot, but you'll have a lot of weight on the head. So what I did also was, I'll use this as an example here. I have another split ring hanger. This one is for the 3/4 inch copper size. And I put it on a little wall flange here for 3/8. That's you could use like a block of wood or some kind of weight in the back and sort of balance it so that this will be here and this will be kind of even to the head. This weight will pull it down so the head stays on the top, so this has to weigh a little bit more. And you know, the carpet trick tape, so that's the back of that. And as for the head, okay, now for the head here, now this is one of the totally cool dude heads that, you know, they used to have a Kmart. I think you could still get them at other places, but Kmart went out, which is very sad. I miss Kmart. So let's see, we're going to put an opening here with the Dremel tool. So let's say right like that, like 2 little circles like here. I'm going to cut this out with the Dremel tool. Then I'm going to use the clamp to hold it to the picker upper itself. Now, it's only going to be hand tight by finger, and then I'll show the next method. Now, next we have we have the freeform air here. This is from the company called Smooth On. It goes on kind of like a, I'd say like a, what do you call it, like a plaster mix or spackling mix. When it's a 2-part system. And that's actually, it's usually used for sculpting things for decorative purposes, but for this it's going to be to secure it. So what I did with the original was, after this was done, and oh, you know, by the way, this is only done by fingertip. It wasn't tightened too hard. I said do it by hand, so just a little fingertip. And I filled in this whole section with it to to give it some support. So it was a large wad of dough was put on there and sculpted in. You could also put, if you wanted to, put an L bracket in the back. I took the original has a piece of aluminum L bracket. It was put with a pipe clamp onto here. You know, of course, you can't drill through it or you'll ruin the entire picker-upper. And in the back, I just used a toggle bolt. I just tightened it by hand, and then I epoxied it, and then I kind of worked it over and put little greebles on it to hide it. And that's what took care of, that's how I did the head mechanism. And here, show me the, here's the original. Now, you may be wondering, you might be saying, okay, now, if this guy is life-size, how are you going to play him in the game? But you know, do you remember, if you go back to Godzilla vs. Megalon, I saw that in the theater. That's nerd cred. That is old and that is nerd cred right there. Yes, I saw that in the theater. That Jaguar could grow into Godzilla size. So can Junkyard Johnny 3000. So yes, you'll have all these little 40mm base creatures and they have to fight Junkyard Johnny 3000. But unless you use the Force Awakening rules, which means if you have a janitor bot, the janitor bot can just say, hey, you know, right over there, there's a port, you hit it with a missile, he blows up. And yes, that's what's going to happen. So Junkyard Johnny 3000 might not last that long if they have a janitor bot. So maybe I'll make like some kind of retreat roll or something like that to do there. But okay, and here also coming in the future now, we're going to have a musical. Igor, the incredible host of his own horror show on OSI 74, we're going to get together and we're going to make Junkyard Johnny the musical. Run it, maestro.
Ready. We're ready.
Yeah.
Nobody can.